welcome everybody. This is my first Cathi's Pics live, my first YouTube live. I will admit my palms are sweating a little bit. And I have a great saying on my wall that says it's okay to be brave and afraid at the same time, which is Brene Brown. So any of you that are, we're going to talk about organizing and all sorts of topics today. But if you get nervous about trying new things, it's okay, because we all can feel it. But there's lots of great technology out there and wonderful ways to try new things. So I'm excited today to introduce you to the three different experts that we have. We have with us today Jill Yesko, who is a downsizing expert, and coming from Pittsburgh. We have Darla DeMoro, who is coming to us from, actually, that's interesting, too, from Pennsylvania. It didn't dawn on me. She's in Philadelphia, and she's the author of Sort and Succeed. And then Carolyn Gunther is our productivity expert. She is coming to us from Sweden today. I think she's in Sweden. So we're all coming from different places. I am in Connecticut, West Hartford. Again, my name is Cathi Nelson. And this is my first Cathi's Pics live. So in the chat, how many of you actually read the email that goes out every Friday? I enjoy so much putting together that content. And every Friday, there's an email that goes out called Cathi's Pics, where I scour the internet and scour articles and things and read things that I think would be of interest to me and to you. And usually we have photo organizing tips, or we have tips on inspirational sharings, photo camera information, all sorts of different things. So hopefully you find that all enjoyable. So those of you that read it, and then we can also drop a note in the chat. If you don't get that, you can subscribe to it. And so I'm hoping to do this, or I'm not hoping, I'm going to be doing this every month. And so if there's different speakers, topics you're interested in, go ahead and put it on in the chat as well, because I have access to some amazing people that I can bring on that will be happy to share with you their insights and things. So let me know if there's anything in particular. But today, let's talk about having a clutter-free January. It's already mid-January. How many of you started out with great things that you were going to do, and then, it's amazing how quickly mine have fallen off track in some ways. So let's first bring on Darla, and she is going to join us.
Hi, Cathi.
Darla, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So my name's Darla DeMoro. I own a company called Heartwork Organizing. We're based just outside of Philadelphia, and we work in the 5-county Philadelphia area, and have for 19 years. I can't wait to be celebrating 20 years, but we do home organizing, business coaching, home staging, and photo organizing, which was super great when the world shut down and we couldn't do any of the other fun things that we did during the pandemic. We were 100% photo organizing for a couple of years. And now we're back to probably about 50-50 in our business. So I love the photo managers. I am a trainer in the photo managers, and along with my colleagues on the call today, and also read your newsletter, Cathi, religiously, and just really love bringing order and peace to my clients' lives in the different ways that we do.
And I meant to say that each of these speakers actually are coaches for our masterclass for professional photo managers who are trying to take their business to another level. And so they are very experienced both in their own businesses and also helping others. So the first question I had today for you, Darla, I was wondering, what do you think about, what should we think about when we create our goals around the idea that, I want to, it's the new year, I want to get organized. Like how do you help people even think about that?
So it's a great time, first of all. I think that there's really 3 or 4 New Years in a year. So if January isn't the right time for you, that's okay. For me, September, when the kids go back to school, often feels like a new year. Some people get stuck in winter, and so spring feels like a new year. There are different times of the year. So if January isn't it for you and you're kind of winding up, that's okay. But January does tend to be, I can tell you, our phones ring off the hook in January because people think, well, now's the time, and reach out to us to try and get some order in their homes, their lives, their businesses, maybe start that photo organizing project that they've, had on the books for years, but haven't quite ever done anything with. So it's good to have a time that you say that this is it. This is the line in the sand. I'm actually going to do something now. I really try to have people not spend a lot of time winding up to getting organized, because really the way that we approach organizing in my company is it's an action-oriented event. A lot of people kind of overthink getting organized, and really we find that organizing is its own reward in a lot of ways, but it's also motivating once you start. And a lot of people try and put that motivation in front of the starting, and it just isn't there. So, yeah, if now is the time, and you've said, oh, I've been on the sidelines for a while, or I want to make changes in my home, but I'm just kind of stuck. What we find is that you get started, and then good things happen.
That's my big question, is that getting started, right? Even for myself, like, how do you help people? I'm looking at my desk right now, right? like, how would you, like, if you came in and I said, Darla, help me get my, the space that I'm working in even organized so that I feel like there's some breathing room. How would you get me, like, what would you orient to me to get started?
So I've been organizing people for 19 years professionally, and I was a project manager before that. And what I noticed just so many times is I would hear that, I'm not sure where to start. I feel overwhelmed. How could I get started? And so when I put together my signature organizing system, which is called Sort and Succeed, that SORT and then Succeed stands for 5 distinct steps. And what I noticed was that all the other organizing systems or hacks out there imagined that you were already organizing. And so it would say, when you're organizing, do X, Y, Z. When you're organizing, here's where you move things or whatever. And I realized that getting over the hump and actually starting the organizing was hard for so many people. I would have high-level executives and people, with a lot of experience call me and say, I know what to do, but you need to come make me do it. And so starting is hard, right? No matter where you are. So I really just want people to get started, and I ask them to write down their goal in 5 words or less. And that's it. So Cathi, if I walked into your office and you said, I need to get organized, I'm kind of thinking about the desk, what do you think? I would say, describe for me your organizing goal in 5 words or less. And it could be as simple as, I won't put you on the spot here, it could be as simple as clear off the desktop. That's 4 words.
Create more white space.
Yeah. Yeah. So as long as you have that guiding principle for the work that you're doing, clear off your desktop or create more space. I mean, we can create more white space in your office in about 10 minutes. And by the time you see it, then you get that motivation to continue on. Or maybe 10 minutes is all you have to organize today. And then you can say, pat yourself on the back and go do something else. You don't need a lot of time to get organized. That's the difference between getting organized and staying organized too, is people think, oh, get organized. I'm going to need a whole day for that, or a whole weekend, or I'm going to have to take a week off of work to do that. And we don't do that. It's a lot faster and a lot more fun, quite frankly, when you get in and you actually do start making the changes that you want to be making.
And I didn't prep you ahead of time. I kind of sent some questions, but I am curious. This, since most people that are tuning in probably know us as the photo managers, and you help people organize their photos. How do you approach that when somebody's coming to you with their photo collection?
So again, I always start with, what's your goal? Right? What do you want to be doing? Because a lot of people think I should be organizing my photos, therefore I must digitize them, or I've got to scan them, or a lot of people, and again, I find this is an age thing depending on, so I'll just say I'm over 50. I remember when film was how we got photos. So we've made that transition from heritage films and photos and things that we have in our shoeboxes to now the digital world. But when somebody's looking at it and thinking, oh, I've got tons of shoeboxes or tons of plastic bins and my family photos are in there and they're important, but I don't know how to scan things, or, I assume I have to scan them. And that's not necessarily the goal, right? Digitizing photos is one part of a photo organizing project, and it's not actually the end goal, believe it or not. It is the means to how you're going to end up loving and enjoying and sharing those photos with others, right? So I would say if somebody's, at the very beginning of their project or already overwhelmed and they haven't even pulled their shoeboxes out of closets yet, I would say before you even go there, give me 5 words that tell me what you want with your project. A lot of times it's something like, I want to share, I want to remember the grandfather to the grandchildren, right? Or I want to share my heritage with my cousins. We just did a project for a famous opera singer, and he's passed away now, but his family. And the goal was actually twofold. One, to get the photos out of plastic boxes or cardboard boxes, and to share them with the family, and also with I don't want to say it on the air, but with the opera company that he was with. So, there were actually 3 different goals, and that was the guiding principle. So we could, to guide that family on how to get to the end.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I love that. Those 5 words makes a lot of sense. And I think a lot of us probably intuitively know that we overthink the whole process. We overthink organizing, or we give, there's that voice in our head that says, I'm not organized, or I'm bad, or things like that. So how do you, what's the best way to eliminate those kind of voices that we might have in our minds that kind of, and also go ahead, and if you have questions for Darla in the chat, go ahead and put them in there, and we'll make sure we have plenty of time at the end. And also right now, if there's a specific question, we'll ask it before we bring in our next speaker. But yeah, so how do you help people with that inner voice?
Well, I think it's a good call out to say there is a voice in our head, and so Sort and Succeed is actually based on some brain science. If you're really interested on the endowment theory and the imposter syndrome, and there's a lot of that in Sort and Succeed, like what your brain is actually doing, and some of the studies that back up what I'm how I've put Sort and Succeed together. In my next life, I'll be a neuroscientist, but right now I'm an organizer. So, but to recognize that there is a voice in your head, and again, if it's always chirping at you in a negative way, I would say to go back to the activity, because the activity, putting your muscle behind your thoughts and actually making things happen really is transformative. So you can tell me all day long you're not good at organizing, but I could put and I'll just go very simple here. I could put a box of socks in front of you, or a basket of socks in front of you. You can absolutely sort those into pairs. That's part of, it's not all of, but it's part of sorting. And it's part of organizing. So you could tell me you're not good at organizing, but I can prove that you are. People discount the absolutely amazing things that they do every day, like put on a pair of shoes that have the same shoes in them, find your car keys, get in your car, and make yourself get to work. Those are not given in every household. They are not a given for every individual. If you can do those, that's great. But if you can do those things, then you can organize your home. And if you don't want to organize your home, then you can get help, right? There's a community of professional organizers, certified professional organizers like me, who love to organize. So if you're more in the, get help.
One thing that, and also the idea that the brain science, I think, is fascinating, because I realized I learned how to organize my closet finally when somebody did the idea of organizing it by color. And so for me, my closet is actually organized in colors, and it really works for me because I'm a visual person. So and once I realized that made sense, it was like, so I don't feel like I have this completely unorganized closet any longer. So that idea, that's how our brains work, right? And how we see things. Well, thank you, Darla. Somebody just said they love following. Cathi Jones said she loves following you on Instagram. And somebody else liked your example of an opera singer, because their mother, who has passed away, was also an opera singer. Yeah. Well, thank you, Darla. Next, we have Jill Yesko with us. Jill is a downsizing expert, among many other things. She's also a residential organizer, professional photo organizer, author, speaker. You're not a scuba diver. She also
surfing.
She's a surfer. She's a surfer. Woo! Jill. Yeah, she's wears many hats, and she's a wonderful person, and has an amazing nonprofit that she started. So she's a busy lady. And so tell us a little bit about yourself, Jill.
Okay. Hi, Cathi. Hi, everyone. You know, I think the most important thing to know about me is that I love what I do. I've been doing it for 20 years. Before that, I was in social work and working as an HR director at a psychiatric hospital for children. I just love kind of the behavioral health 360 approach to getting homes and spaces more clear for people. That's just so important to me that everyone has kind of a feeling of clarity. And, Darla's method, about really thinking about the brain and the 5 words, that's a great place to start. Because we're all like thinking about like, what are our goals this year? What are our goals in our homes, in our lives? And we really try at my company anyway, at Discover Organizing, we really try to make sure people dream big but act in smaller chunks. And so we really try to help them learn ways that we can transfer all sorts of skills to them so that they feel really successful. I'm all about empowerment and making people feel like they're completely capable. Just like Darla said, you can sort, you can organize. Well, you can do this. You can do it. So,
And we could have talked to you, asked you about lots of different topics, but today I kind of wanted to ask you about the downsizing piece of your business. One is tell us just a little bit about your amazing nonprofit that you've started, and then I think you're going to share 10 tips on downsizing, which is something I think all of us are needing to do.
yeah. So thank you. So the nonprofit is called Safe Moves for Seniors. You can always go to the website, safemovesforseniors.org, and check it out. We basically move seniors that are economically disadvantaged at no cost. So they have no barriers. They don't have to worry about getting from A to B with all of their belongings. A lot of our people that call us usually have had in the past to, or in a current situation where they have to leave their belongings behind in order to get the newer, safer housing. And just in my work as a senior transition specialist and professional organizing who's been decluttering for a long time, this just made a bunch of sense to do. So we're growing nationally. We're about to have 30 locations across the country of people that are willing to step up and become chapters, which is really cool. It's sort of like watching your dream come true, which I've been doing. And certainly it's a lot of work, but certainly very rewarding.
Yeah. I wanted
Yeah.
to talk about because it's a vision Jill had, and I just really respect your passion for helping. Not you help a lot of people move as a downsizing experts and organizer photo, all sorts of things, but you also saw that market that needed some help. So
Yeah, it's definitely an underserved, vulnerable population for sure. And now they get the same type of treatment that you or I would get on a move, which is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I have a tip sheet that we're going to be sharing with you. It's sort of a handout. Rebecca's going to probably pop that up for me, but she also put it in the chat. Thank you so much, Rebecca. But I just want to go over my top 10, and I'm going to be brief. I feel like I'm on David Letterman, if anyone remembers that show. So the first tip, there's 10 tips. The first tip is to work when your energy is good. A lot of people do not do this. They pretend to be morning people and start bright and early to organize a space because it's morning or because that's when they think they should do it. But if those of you that are night owls out there, starting at 3 o'clock to organize sounds just right. Those of you that, I used to be a night owl, now I'm a morning person, but for me, I think better. And one of my friends actually said, you know what, my eyes are way better in the morning. So send me those documents and I'll take a look at them as soon as I wake up around 6 o'clock. I'm like, perfect. So that is a really important thing to know about ourselves is when our energy is good, we're going to make better decisions. Remember, it all goes back to the brain, right? So get help. That's number 2. Get help. Call an expert, call a friend, call a non-judgmental family member or a friend. You do not want somebody next to you saying, why are you keeping that sweater? You don't want why questions. And if someone asks you a why question, it's going to put you on the defensive, and it's going to make you probably not want to work with that person much longer. So as professional organizers, we say, what's the purpose of this? We don't necessarily say, why are you keeping McCormick spices that I know are 10 years old? That's not going to be something you hear from a professional organizer. We just say, I've noticed the expiration date on these is past its prime. If you want to keep it, fine. Just wanted you to know. Okay, cool. So the other thing that a professional organizer or another friend might be able to do for you is keep you focused. I often get a body double or someone that just can sit with me while I'm doing something else. Like, you want to call it parallel play, you can call it parallel play, but having someone in the room with you while you're doing the thing that you needed to get done is a really critical step. It's kind of what keeps professional organizers in business, for sure, because we keep you focused. But certainly, again, a non-judgmental person or someone that lives in your household might be able to be your body double and your accountability partner and get their work done at the same time. Setting a timer is really, really, really important as well. You can start it for however much you think your attention span or bandwidth would be to do the organizing or decluttering. Barbara Hemphill said a very wise, now trademark statement. She said, clutter is just postponed decisions. So when you are working, just understand that you will be making a ton of decisions, and you're going to be taxing your brain into all of these decisions. And not all of them are going to be easy decisions. Some of them are, sure, keep, toss, sell, donate. But some of them are, oh, my dad used this pen every day to run his office. I want to keep this, but I don't maybe need the pad of paper that was here as well. So, there's decisions you can make about certain objects that might be really easy, and some might have, emotional consequences for you. And so setting the timer helps you manage some micro goals. And if you go into deep work, like sometimes I do on a project, I can be hyper focused for several hours and not look up. So it just depends on what type of work you're doing. An egg timer is fine because it's portable. Your phone's timer, or certainly you can go way old school and hit that oven timer as well. So you want to work by making your life a little easier by setting up your bins and your receptacles before you get started. So always make sure you have cardboard box that's easy to carry, some empty bags that you can fill, a couple, maybe 2 or 3 to get started. If there's things that are going to donate or to an animal shelter or to, the garbage, you want to make sure you have all of your tools in one place before you get started. Because if you're like me, you're going to say, oh, I have to go up and get, a rag from underneath the sink and maybe some cleanser because I want to wipe off this shelf. And then I'm going to get my bags when I do that. And then, I'm hungry. I'm going to get something out of the fridge. And then before you know it, I've decided to detail the fridge and clean it out and get rid of some old food. And then it is time to eat. And then I've completely abandoned the project. So, you just don't want to go down any rabbit holes in your home. So it's really a great idea to make sure you have all of your tools and supplies with you. Working on one area at a time is number 5. So you want to pick a spot, pick a place, and begin there. And one of the biggest cautions I will give you, if for those of you who say, this Saturday, I am going to declutter my entire garage, I would caution you against that unless you have a team of 8 people and some professional organizers, because organizing the front left center or front left corner or back left corner of your garage is a much more doable task than an entire garage. Even if it's a 1-car garage, it doesn't matter the size. Just try to break down the area that you're going to focus in, making sure that you've working when your energy is good. Maybe you have a helper. Like I said, a non-judgmental helper, setting that timer. All of these things need to kind of go in order. And then when you do decide to declutter, you're going to work left to right, top to bottom, like you're reading that room like a book. So you're going to start in that way, way, way left-hand side of the space. I don't care if it's a junk drawer. I don't care if it's a kitchen cabinet. I don't care if it's a walk-in closet, a reach-in closet, a pantry. Starting left to right, top to bottom helps you to truly focus on one thing at a time, which leads us to our next tip, which is the Ohio technique. That's only handle it once. So once you touch it, you have to decide about it, which is funny because now my clients are on to me. So when I hand them something, sometimes they'll go, I'm not touching it because I know you're going to make me decide what I'm going to do with it if I hold on to it. So, that is the premise. It is, if you kind of like with your mail, when you open your mail, when that time comes, hopefully you're not, kind of opening and then leaving it in a pile, but maybe opening it and dealing with it. Is the only handle it once technique keeps us very disciplined on the fact that when we're ready to open the mail, so let's say every Sunday or Tuesday night, you attack that inbox, then you're actually going ahead and making that decision at that time instead of making more work for yourself. You want to make sure you're setting up a very successful future self experience. That's what I usually say to my clients and my friends when they're like, I'm overwhelmed. Well, if you think about what your future self is going to need in about a week or in a couple of days or in a couple of years, you'll probably make some better decisions to take care of him or her. Also, you want to, number 8, we're almost done. Number 8 is you want to determine your frequency and your value and your need of an item. I often do a little exercise when I teach a class in the community for older adults, because they're downsizing the most right now, is I have them say, okay, you have 3 hours to leave your home. You have a Ford Fiat and you have no helpers getting the stuff out of your house, but your pets and your loved ones are safe. What are you putting in your car? Well, of course, the number one answer is photos. They will abandon medicine and jewelry over those photos any old time. But of course, then I said, no, you can take your medicine, your jewelry. They're like, great, because I want to take those things too. But my photos, I can't leave without my photos. So we kind of start making that list. And if I give you 6 hours, one helper, and a Ford Explorer, you're going to put maybe some things in there that mean more to you, maybe an heirloom piece of furniture, those types of things. So we're starting to develop that decision-making muscle on, the frequency, the value, and the need with this exercise. And then the third time frame I give them is, just kidding. You have a 20-foot box truck, 2 helpers, and you have like 24 hours. What are you taking with you? And they get very laser focused on the things that matter to them using this exercise. So you're welcome to use that. And then finally, containing and labeling is very important to give things a home. So containers don't necessarily always have to have lids. Maybe they can be a section of a shelf or a basket. And then labeling. Now I have a label maker here. It is my buddy. I've had this label maker for a very long time. It is a Dymo Letra Tag, but you certainly pick the label maker of choice. There's certainly great label makers now that have apps that you can, on your phone, you can do something like that and print out a label with much bigger font. So there's a lot of fun you can have with labeling. It is, it's my friend Dymo. But labeling things just really helps not only you, but other people in your house. I don't know about you, but sometimes, the people I live with, okay, one person, it's my husband. He's not watching, but sometimes he says, where's the fill in the blank? And I'm like, if it's a Band-Aid, it's in the first aid bin, but I have to literally write first aid on the bin, which I have, and that helps him. P.S. He's a physician and he should know where the Band-Aids are, but that's just an example. So number 10, and the final thing is, do make sure you do another pass. So don't necessarily trust yourself 100% with that first pass. It's sort of your honeymoon period of sorting. So I usually try to go back in another month or so, and I will revisit a space with a client. And it's really interesting how very little they used the things they thought they were going to use in that last month. I remember because I'm their organizer, and I will go back and say, how's that area of your basement going? And I just think it's a really honest approach to, revisit those first 9 steps as much as you can. And I know 10 sounds like a lot. They're just tips. You can take what you like out of it. You can just say, I really just want to do the one tip, which is to set a timer. Just pick the most approachable method for you. But yeah, so those are my 10 tips. And that is on our website, but also I believe it's in the chat.
Yes, and we've had it up on screen. Those were great, Jill. I mean, I'm glad that you have those tips for, I'm thinking I got to go download them for myself. So those were excellent tips. And Holly just said her husband laughs at her for her love for her label maker. And then somebody else said she has a family member who's getting ready to move. And those are great tips that she's looking forward to sharing with her. So thank you so much for those amazing tips. And so our last person that we want to bring up, and then we'll bring everybody back at the end. So again, if you have questions, put them in the chat, is Caroline. She's our productivity expert. She is actually joining us here from Sweden. So what time is it actually?
It's only 8:30, so
okay, so not too
early
bad.
evening. Yeah.
Hey, Caroline. Good evening. So it's wonderful to have Caroline as well. Caroline, I'm going to let you. I always feel it's better to let other people share their backgrounds than me. Who read your bios and things, but Carol and I were just chatting actually before this, and I learned a few things about her I didn't know. But she's just brings a tremendous amount of value to the photo managers as a coach, as somebody who's organized and helped lots of people, especially with their digital photos, as a great trainer. And but she really understands the science of productivity and helping people think about organizing, I think, in a totally different way as well. So Caroline, tell us about yourself, and we'll have a little conversation.
Thank you, Cathi. Yeah, so I'm Caroline Gunter, and my business is called the Swedish Organizer. That's who I am. That's what I do. It didn't take too long to figure that out. It's a funny story, actually. I'll tell you some other time about how that came. It's not what you think. But yeah, I really, really love helping people get things done and finish what they start in a way that's easy and fun and not stressful. I feel like all of us have beautiful talents that we can share with the world, and we should be able to express those talents and do what we love and contribute to the global community in a really holistic way without sacrificing ourselves. Because when you start a business, we all know this. Like, there's a lot to do. There's a lot of hats to wear. And you start getting really busy, right? Especially if things start to go really well. And so what I do primarily is I help a lot of entrepreneurs, especially those in creative fields. So photography, music, writing, those types of industries where you're creating a lot of content. I help them get organized. I help them finish their things in a productive way that feels light. And so they don't have to stress too much about getting things done. Because if you are somebody who loves to express yourself, if you are a creative person and you do a lot of things, sometimes it's hard to get focused. Sometimes it's hard to know where to start. Overwhelm can set in very easily, and that's where I come in. Somebody the other day called me her creative GPS, and I thought that was a really lovely way of putting it. So yeah, that's my thing.
That's a great title. So as a creative GPS person, as a creative myself who can often feel overwhelmed, how do you help people manage that feeling of overwhelm?
Yeah. I think a lot of people really underestimate the learning curve, right? Anytime you do something new, obviously you want to be optimistic and feel confident that things are going to go well, right? But we often underestimate the learning curve that's involved in anything. And we often don't break things down enough to understand where to start, right? And so I always tell my clients, if you are overwhelmed, it just means that you didn't break it down enough. So is there one more layer where we can break it down even more so you know where to start? Because the moment you know where to start, and like Darla said, when you start small, it becomes a lot easier to get it done, and then it doesn't feel as overwhelming. So it's really about just getting the ball rolling, and then you've heard those tips, right? It kind of starts to move on its own after that. The momentum sets in, and the motivation, you start feeling that energy.
Yeah, I love that, the underestimating of the learning curve. Even, this was our first Cathy's Pics live, and all of a sudden,
perfect example.
We all expressed a little nervousness because it's the first time we've done, YouTube live, and it's all running perfectly. But of course, there's that moment, right, of panic that I think we all feel. So you talk about micro goals. I know I've heard you talk about that. Can you tell us a little bit about what you mean? Is that kind of getting down to that next?
Yeah.
back the layers, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just breaking things down into the smallest possible step. And what happens when you do that is you just make it so easy for yourself to do it that you start to go, well, if I don't do it, it's kind of ridiculous, right? So for us doing this YouTube live, well, the first thing we have to do is log on, and that's all you got to do, right? And that was easy. And then when we got logged on and we all started talking, we're like, oh, great. What's the next step, right? Let's do that. Oh, press the button. Okay, great. Now let's do the next thing. So, when you break it down like that, it doesn't become as scary because you're not seeing that whole learning curve, close in on you. You're seeing just the next step, and you don't need to know the entire ladder to know where the ladder is reaching, right? So that's where a lot of people get caught. I feel like they need to know every single step and have it exactly worked out. That security of knowing exactly what's going to happen in order to start, but you're never going to have all the answers. We know that. It's going to be incredibly hard to get started if you expect to have all those answers in front of you.
Somebody here says she struggles with breaking the steps down. When I get motivated, I often set the bar too high for what I complete, and then I go to that disappointment, right? That's that wheel. Yeah.
So instead of having one box that you don't check off, break it down into 10 boxes and check off 3, and you'll feel a lot better, even if it's the same exact thing, right? So that's how we do that. And obviously, we want to have really good goals. We want to set the bar high. We want to have great standards. We also can't be too hard on ourselves, especially in a learning curve. I'm in plenty of learning curves right now, and I'm always a little hard on myself. So I have to check myself all the time and remind myself that, it's okay. You haven't done this before. That's okay. One step at a time.
Yeah, that saying, or done is better than perfect, right? When, that idea that we can get help, even with photos, right? But again, because this isn't photo, we are photo organizers and helping people with that. How do you help people break down those micro goals when you're starting somebody with a photo organizing project?
Yeah. So like Darla said, what's the outcome? We need to be very clear on the goal and what we're trying to achieve, right? And you have to commit to it. And then it's a matter of, okay, where can we start? So I usually tell people, well, one place to start is, if you're doing digital, for example, is how about we delete a few screenshots that you don't need anymore? That's actually a simple, fun thing to do. And it's not scary because, again, like Jill said, you're going to make a lot of difficult decisions sometimes. And a screenshot isn't a difficult decision. It's actually quite an easy decision because there's no emotional attachment a lot of the time. So I like doing a few things like that to kind of get the ball rolling.
Yeah, I like that. That's, I created the ABCs of photo organizing, but I immediately put the, A is, are they archival worthy or album worthy, but B is the box, which is the really important part because it's really hard to decide what the A is, right? So it's almost the same idea of giving yourself multiple checkoff boxes, right?
That's exactly right. It's a lot easier to start with the C's and get rid of the obvious clutter, right? The obvious things that don't have any attachment. Yeah, exactly. So you kind of twist it around.
At the top, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. What is the best way to eliminate distractions? I mean, I tell you, aren't we all living in a distractible world? I am. I mean, I'm sitting here, engaged in this, but my phone is right over here. And did a text message come in? I mean, it's ridiculous how our brains have become conditioned to distraction. I think I know I'm not alone in saying that. So how do you have any advice or tips on that?
Yeah. So what I normally tell my students is to think about distractions as something that's not related to what they're working on at the moment, right? So if you think about a task that you're doing, you have to know what that is connected to, why it's connected to that bigger goal that you might have. So if I'm organizing my photos, for example, and maybe I'm out buying, shoe boxes or something just to have something to sort in, and I get a phone call, maybe I choose not to pick up that phone call because I'm actually focused on the task at hand. So weird example, but you get the idea. It's like when you are clear on why you are doing something and you have a task that's connected to a bigger goal, then it's easier to focus in on that because then you realize that anything else that's interrupting you is a distraction. So that also sort of brings me to that point on the reverse, is that all tasks have to be connected to some sort of project or some sort of outcome in order to make a difference. So if you're just doing things just for the sake of doing them and they're not connected to something else, they are distractions. So the way you eliminate distractions is by connecting them to a bigger goal, essentially, and knowing what that outcome is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love this. I mean, it's so helpful for even me. I'm thinking, so what is like a tip? So, I hang up tomorrow, I start my day. I think I want to break my day down into some micro goals. How do you recommend people? Do they use sticky notes? Do they write it down on a yellow pad of paper? Or do they, do you have any little like brain hacks that people use to help with that?
Yeah. And I think, and again, not to battle sort of that overwhelm that a lot of people sometimes have, is I tell people, like, what's your win of the day? So if you wake up and you ask yourself, look, what would I really like to accomplish today? And if you have that in the back of your mind and you're working towards that and you can check that off, that's going to be a very satisfying day, right? So even if you don't get everything done, if you have that sort of in the back of your head of like, oh, I'd really like to get this done. Like today, let's say, oh, I'm excited to speak with Cathi on, this YouTube Live for the first time. If I have that in my head, which I did this morning, as if this all goes well, which I know it will, it's going to be a great box that I can tick, at the end of the day, and I would be happy with that. The rest sort of all washes away, because I know I at least have that. And if it comes earlier, great, then we can pick another one. Let's say we had this in the morning, then I could check that off, and then I could say, look, I'm actually doing really good today. Maybe there's another win that I can pull off, right? So again, those micro steps of doing one thing at a time helps, and not having too much on your.
I work with a plan. I like a paper planner, but I've tried a number of them, but I don't have a favorite one. But I love the focus, the 3 steps. Most of them, the ones that I've discovered over time, you start your day off with just 3 things you're going to accomplish a day. None of us can accomplish more than 3 things almost, and that's been really helpful for me, almost to start my week off with my 3 top things each day, and then you can build in from there. But again, it's almost really forcing you to do like a micro goal goal by doing just three things, and some days I'm better at that than others, right? So
the only thing I would say though is that the reason I say 1 and not 3 is because a lot of us are actually, and you can do 3, absolutely. But the reason I often recommend 1 is because a lot of us are really bad at estimating how long things take. And we're actually, again, very optimistic, thinking we're going to get way more done than we actually get done, because we don't think about how long things take, and we don't break it down enough. So when you have the 1, you tend to laser focus a lot more on the 1, and then we can go to number 2 and number 3. You can have them in the back of your head. But when you have the 3 next to each other, now you have another decision again about which one to choose first.
I'm going to try that next week. Anybody else? Is that kind of an aha? I'm going to try the 1 a day instead of the 3 a day. Because and then if you don't get all 3 done, they move it to the next day, and that the 3 that you had for the next day suddenly is.
So it's kind of like, instead of having them next to each other like this,
actually for me,
it's actually more like this. Yeah.
Some days getting out of bed is the one thing.
There you go.
I
check the box. Well done.
Right?
Yeah, and not beating yourself up that sometimes that is the one thing, and that's okay. That's it. Yeah.
This is wonderful. Great, Caroline. So questions for Darla, Jill, or Caroline, or myself, go ahead and enter here. I don't know, can we bring everybody on the same screen at once, Rebecca? I don't know if we can or not. We can. Yay. There's everybody. Let's see. If I had just time to do one thing, what is going to be the best thing to do? That's, I think it's, I know that I captured memories, photo solution. Yeah. What would that be? But any questions? This has been great. Any other thoughts, Jill or Darla, that came to mind as you're listening to the other speakers? Go ahead, Jill.
I think about prioritization, so much, because like you guys were just talking about your lists and the 1 thing and versus the 3 thing, and everybody has their own, fires that are kind of burning around them, and we have to figure out which one do I put out first. We've also heard the, comparison of like, what's the loudest screaming baby in the room sometimes, and I think that changes hour to hour for a lot of us as well. So I like that Caroline wants to put an intention out there, like, this is the 1 thing that you really, if you don't do this 1 thing today, I think you're, you might regret this, not getting this done, or maybe just really focusing on this 1 thing will make you feel successful. Let's be positive. But I think, if you have to, to the, the question, it says, if I have time to do 1 thing, what's the best? The best thing is always the thing I feel for me is going to be the thing that lowers my stress the most. And when that stress level goes down, I can function. I mean, I can't think if I'm stressed. And so I always ask myself, what is the highest risk, problem prone thing in my day? And if I can get that thing pushed aside, dealt with, even if I'm chipping away at it, like right now with this nonprofit, all of this red tape, I keep, pushing myself through. I say, this is definitely the loudest voice in the room right now, but there's only so much within my control. But I know the one thing that I can do to get further along and move that needle a little bit further today. And I have to be grateful for that, that decision to do that and the action that came after the decision.
I love that. Now, here's a question for tips on motivating a reluctant spouse to help. I suppose probably you could add children on there to help or get on board with decluttering the house.
I always say getting organized is kind of like quitting smoking. You can't do it for somebody else, but you can lead by example. Okay. And a lot of the things that Jill talked about, I think Jill actually said labels. Didn't you talk about your love for your Dymo labeler, Jill?
Mm-hmm.
Mine's brother, but yes, the brother labeler is awesome too. But, if you lead the way and then use the tools that you have, like label makers, to leave a trail of organizing behind you, then others will follow. And it may not be the way that you want it. It may not be to your level it certainly won't be to a magazine level. But, I was joking on my Facebook page with my group the other day. I said, sometimes I go into the dishwasher and I think, why are my people torturing me by throwing the dishes in the dishwasher? And then I have to step back and remember, wait, the dishes are in the dishwasher. So take the wins where you can get them.
Yeah, and I'll just add on to that, Caroline, if you have anything, for sure. But I get asked this question. I'm always put on the spot with this question when I'm giving a presentation, like a live presentation, and I usually say, do the commercial like Darla. I don't know where Darla is on the grid. I'm like pointing over there. And I always say, make the commercial in your house. Maybe they'll watch the commercial and they'll want to buy the product, of the house being organized, them finding things easily. So if there's so much that you can do within your own space to make changes for yourself, and it is very hard to, get someone on board if they're not even willing to sit down and talk about it. However, when we do our family meetings, when we first start working with our people that live with other people, I said, is there any way we could get everybody at the same table when we first start out? Because I'm not invested, in the family feelings and emotions. I'm just there as an outside facilitator. But I say, I want to hear what everybody's frustrated with in the house, not just, mom or dad. I want to hear what everybody is like. I wish these things could be better. And then I'll know better in terms of systems in the house that need to work. And so if you all troubleshoot together, even if I'm not sitting with you, if you can all troubleshoot together and everyone gets a voice and says, well, I wish this could be different around here. I'm just wondering what that outcome might feel like if it's not just you driving the bus all the time with trying to get the house organized.
I was going to say the same thing exactly. I think communication is the key there. That's, organizing systems and all of that. Like, it works when we're labeling things and we're communicating what those systems are. That's why we have all three of us love our label makers because that's a form of communication, right? So other people understand where things are stored. So it's the same thing. I think if you sit down and say, I am really excited about this project because A, B, and C, and it's important to me because, for this reason, then they will understand your viewpoint versus you sort of maybe bossing them around and pushing them into something that they don't understand why they're doing it, right? I feel everybody probably needs to be on board and understand why it's important to you, because then they can support you with it and actually be a participant. So I think, Jill, your point there was right on.
And maybe those micro goals for somebody that feels you're a big picture thinker, and maybe helping them see the micro goal that they achieved. If they're not an organized person by nature, maybe just putting tightening the lid on the, I don't know, on something so that it doesn't spill over. It's like a goal. Yes, did better on that. I just want to, let's see. Joy gives her spouse a small space to go through. That's great. And Darla, do you have any last minute wrap up points, each of you, as we now wrap up?
I wanted to mention that we've been focusing on sort of general organizing this hour, and we are all photo organizers, and you only have so much time in the day, right? You're going to pick your 1 or 3 micro goals, to get through the day. But at my company, we always say the photo organizing, it might be the most important organizing project you'll ever finish. Yeah. So if you have goals to, like everything that we've talked about today, organize the garage, organize the kitchen, organize the sock drawer, all these things, right? Nobody's house is perfect. In fact, just yesterday, again, I had somebody say, "Oh, you're a professional organizer, huh? What does your house look like?" Okay. We all of us, even those of us on the call here, and we're professionals at it, we all have organizing goals. We all have organizing projects that we will work on. But I think we all can agree that the photo organizing projects go beyond our life today. They are projects that impact our future selves and future generations. And so there's no better time than today to get started with a photo project. So I just kind of wanted to leave you with that.
Yay. Good point, I couldn't agree more. Jill, any final thoughts?
I would just say be gentle with yourselves. There's a lot of talk about, the New Year's resolution mindset, I think it's just important to resolve to, do things a little bit better to give yourself more peace or simplicity in your home. And maybe if you think about what those things are, and how your home represents who you are today, not who maybe you used to be. Maybe, it's important to have dreams and build our homes around some of our hopes and dreams, like setting us up for success for that future self, for those things that you might want to explore, like photo organizing. You can make a little spot for that. But the point is does your home really reflect who you are at this moment in your journey? So that's usually how we start kind of working with our clients, is having them define that.
Carolyn, any other?
I think one thing that I would love to mention is that I feel like a lot of us want really fast success. We want the result right now, right this minute. And I think our attention spans maybe have gotten a little shorter, but just keeping in mind that, you get good by doing things over and over again. Repetition, practice, and consistency is as cliche sometimes as that sounds, that's just how life works. And so, you don't have to, tackle your entire house in one day. Try to avoid that all or nothing mindset. Say, what is was it Jill with the garage? What is the little area that I'm going to focus on today? And you can make it, again, as small as it needs to be in order to complete it. Because I think, again, completing it is what's going to get you that, box to check, right? So if it's a pen and that you have to put back, or somebody in the chat said, I'm going to put the Christmas decorations away, great. That's one thing you can do today, right? And it's now better tomorrow, and then the next day, and then the next day. So we all want success overnight, but that's just, that's hard to get.
Right, that the journey, or a journey of 1,000 steps, or you think a journey with one step, or eat an elephant one bite at a time, or all of those things, all those little sayings actually are filled with wisdom that we have to remember. So thank you so much for both Caroline, Jill, and Darla. As I mentioned, these are wonderful friends and colleagues of mine. They have really amazing businesses. They're wonderful members of the Photo Managers. They coach our master class, which is just getting started. If you'd like to learn more about the Photo Managers, I know that we've posted. Oh, I'm muted. Oh, she just unmuted my Matt. And Patricia, if not, you can go to NAPO about organizing. I think it's quite a process to become a certified professional organizer through the National Association of Productivity and Professionals, right? NAPO, wonderful program. And I know Darla, I don't know if all three of you are members at NAPO. You might all probably are, right? They all are. So again, if you want to know more about the Photo Managers though, or hiring a photo manager or learning about our Photo Managers and Training program, we'd love to welcome you to that. And again, please feel free to drop us a note, send us a note to support@thephotomanagers.com. What else would you like to hear? Who else would you like me to interview? We have a lot of ideas and we'll be coming live once a month. And so thank you all who have joined us. And again, thank you to my colleagues for joining me on our first, we did it. And Rebecca, who's there behind the scenes, answering things in the chat and turning people on and off. Thank you, Rebecca. Great job. Thanks, everybody.